Hello, and welcome back
Hi,
to
Mom.
Exothermic Plays
So I got my
Games.
ticket home from Europe.
I'm
I get
Exothermic,
back
and
on
the
June
date today
6th,
is
but it's a
Monday,
really
July
late flight. It's about
29th,
to Tuesday, so it gets to midnight.
2024.
But don't
I've
worry,
been
I'll get
doing a
settled in the
countdown of
airport,
my
so you don't have
favorite
to wait
video
around.
games of all time
Like,
through
really
each day of
seriously,
the
you don't
year,
have to.
and coming in at number
Okay, so, love you.
156
See you soon.
is
Bye.
Gone Home. This is the first true walking simulator on my list, and it's probably the only pure one on the whole thing. There's a couple of other games that certainly have arguments for being walking simulators, but they still have some other gamey elements that I think make them more adjacent to the genre rather than being firmly in it. In Gone Home, you play as Katie, a 21-year-old woman who has returned home from a huge trip across all of Europe. While she was gone, her parents moved to a new city into a creepy old house in the middle of nowhere in Oregon. It's clear immediately that something is wrong, with a note on the door from her 17-year-old sister, Sam, apologizing for something and implying she's gone. The rest of the game has you walking through the unfamiliar home and piecing together this family's life from context clues, notes, and things strewn about the house. The game is a period piece set in the mid-90s. Sam is a rebellious teenager who struggled to find friends in their new home until she met Lonnie. Thanks to Lonnie, Sam gets into grunge music and Street Fighter and, well, girls. Whenever you find an important item throughout the game, you get voiceover narration from Sam explaining things to you about her depression and struggling with her sexuality and your parents' reactions to it all.
Good or whatever. But that's when she said, "You're so beautiful." And she was looking at me. Right in that moment, I wanted to say something, but I waited. And the moment was gone.
The story here is incredibly short, but deeply impactful. I've played through the game 3 times now, and Steam says my total playtime is 3.4 hours. The shortness and brevity of the story is probably the main thing keeping this game out of the top 100. The first time I played this game was shortly after it was released in 2013. I was 19 years old and sympathized greatly with Sam. Don't get me wrong, I still do. She was an outsider in her own home, she had almost no friends, and her parents struggled to connect with her in any way. Now, playing this game at the age of 30, I still think her parents handled the situation pretty terribly, but I do have some sympathy for them as well, certainly more than I did then.
I've known.
As you move about the house and
I've
explore,
noticed
there's a
it's
lot more you can
Sheila.
piece together than just the core narrative
Mom and
about
Dad,
Sam,
I guess.
though you don't get as much overt narration about these other things. Your father is a failed author who tried to write a series of historical fiction novels about traveling back in time to stop the JFK assassination. They sold pretty terribly. It turns out this is connected to some trauma in his own life from the previous owner of the house. Meanwhile, your mother's career has been taking off as she's the new director for the wildlife conservation program in the area. But also, their marriage has been failing, with, let's say, outside interests and struggles with depression on all sides of the household. This is why they're not actually there at the house to greet you when you get home, because they're gone on what they claim is a camping trip, but really, as you discover from exploration, it is a marriage counseling week-long thing. Despite all of these issues and their less than favorable views on Sam's recent developments, the parents really are trying to connect with her and communicate on her terms. There's post-its and other notes throughout the house that are clearly how the family communicates, because otherwise Sam won't listen. It's clear from things in the game that she'll either just be away from the home or lock herself in her room most of the time, not listening to anything her parents have to say. Granted, the notes are probably all a very recent development, given the context of the rest of the story and its timeline. There's a lot to take in here, and I've discovered new nuance in each of my playthroughs. Narratively, it's done exceptionally well, because much of this is news to you, Katie, the player, as well, whose only contact with the family for the last several months has been via postcards. The more you find, the more it feels like a real fleshed out family, like it could have been just a snapshot in time of a real household in 1995. It's very well done. I'm not going to get into other parts of the narrative besides these broad strokes, because it's something you really have to experience to appreciate. The delivery of the narrative is fantastic, as it moves at the organic pace of how you discover it. The voice acting is exceptionally well done, and the first time I beat the game, I cried so much. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 155th favorite game, where I think the Wii's motion controls lived up to their potential for the first time.